J-Lo create vibes now.
Welcome to another episode of the Get Love Like Mine podcast. We are your humble hosts. I'm Keisha Amos. This is my beautiful husband, Sam Amos. I believe this is episode 8. And we're going to talk. We have a pretty current topic today, but we're going to start with Ask the Amoses this week. Doing something a little different because my husband has a question he wants to pose. So go ahead, babe.
Okay, I have a coworker that asked me to speak on this issue that he wants to, he definitely supports the Black Lives Matter movement as well as I do. But he said he's always around folks, I don't know, he didn't really say if they were white people or whatever, but he's always around people that he said they tend to bring up all lives matter, like you're trying to disregard other people as if black folks want some kind of preferential treatment or special treatment. So that was the Ask the Amoses. So we're going to address that early.
Well, let's be clear and recap the question. The question is, how do you support Black Lives Matter when you're around people who believe that all lives matter?
Or don't really understand
what Black Lives Matter is?
Yeah, what the movement is all about. Why?
Is your friend black or white?
Black.
Okay.
So, I mentioned preferential treatment. Well, really, to be honest, it's kind of preferential treatment how this whole thing came about anyway. It's just preferential treatment that we didn't want. So Black Lives Matter started pretty much when George Floyd.
No, it started long before George Floyd.
Well, I mean the term.
Yeah, it started long before. It was like Michael Brown years ago. Black Lives Matter. It's been around about 8 years. It didn't start with George Floyd.
Well, they just
the whole world came together with George Floyd. They had been saying it though. Okay,
so once this started, and of course there's always going to be some backlash behind it. People think, I don't know why folks think we want preferential treatment when we're just, our biggest argument is we just want to be considered equal, but I guess that's a whole nother story. But so, like I said, this whole thing started because of preferential treatment that we don't want. We don't see a lot of, not saying it doesn't happen, a lot of Hispanic or white folks getting brutality from the police and losing their lives from it. That was our biggest problem, our biggest concern, our biggest complaint. And so, saying Black Lives Matter doesn't mean other folks' lives don't matter. What we're trying to say is, at this time, we want to not keep receiving this preferential treatment that we're getting. Now, if white people or other races were having the same amount of stories in the news of getting loved ones killed, like, we have a list that goes a long way that I don't know other race that can say, starting back with from the one that I can think of, Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd. There was Breonna Taylor. There was, it's just so many of them. James Byrd, that was drugged by the truck. But anyway, we've had too many protests and marches behind police brutality, even back in the 50s and the 40s when black folks were getting drugged and sprayed by the fire department. It's just ridiculous. But I thought of this analogy that we all drive a car. My car, when it's low on gas light comes on, right? So there's other lights in there, like for when my car is low on oil, light may come on. So if my gas light comes on, I may say, well, my car needs gas in it. Well, then the person sitting next to me may argue, well, your car needs oil too. Well, yeah, it needs oil to run, but because the oil light's not on, I'm not addressing the oil right now. I'm only addressing what needs to be dealt with.
Right.
And that's how Black Lives Matter feels to us. Like, we're not saying all lives don't matter, but if we were getting treated like everyone else, then we wouldn't have any complaints. Or if there was, I don't know, Jewish folks or Hispanics that were in the news just as much as we are behind police killing, then the phrase probably would be different. It probably wouldn't be just Black Lives Matter. But at this time, we seem to be, I guess, targeted, you would call it. And we don't like it. So it's not all lives don't matter. All lives do matter, including Black lives. But Black Lives Matter came because we're getting special treatment that we don't want.
Yeah, and let's not say it's special or preferential, because it's not. We don't prefer this type of treatment, and it's not the type of special treatment we would want. But I just want to clarify a couple of things based on what you said. Number one, Black Lives Matter is not only about police brutality, because like you said, James Byrd, Ahmaud Arbery, Trayvon Martin, they weren't killed by police. They were killed by someone of the opposite race who felt like Black lives didn't matter. So when we say Black Lives Matter, it's not only about police brutality. It's a lot, but not only. And then, like I already said, that term Black Lives Matter came about at least 8 years ago. It's been around. It's one of the newest movements as far as civil rights for Black people, us wanting equality.
Rodney
And
King.
when we, Rodney King. When we think of Black Lives Matter, and like the analogy, that's a good analogy you gave about the car. The one that I heard that resonated with me was about the fire department. If I call the fire department and say, my house is on fire, I want you to focus your water hose on my house. Don't hose my neighbor's houses down and say all houses matter, all lives matter. No, but my house is the one that is under siege right now, that is, in a state of crisis, that we're having the emergency, and this is the one you need to focus on. But a lot of people, well, I'm not going to say a lot of people, but some people, believe, they look at Black people as if we are animals. And when you walk outside and you see a dog, scurrying down the street, you don't ever stop to think, how is that dog feeling? This dog had to eat outside, he living outside, He may have a owner that's taking care of him, but they feed him scraps. You don't ever think you're equal to the dog. You know what I'm saying? But we're not animals. We are not a monolithic people. Black people range from the president to homeless, just like white people. You can be here, you can be here. There's a range. We are not all the same, but we do all matter, and every race matters. So, I like the analogy you use about the car, but I think that's the best way to explain it to somebody, is to let them know, just because I'm saying Black Lives Matter does not mean that your life doesn't. But we just have to keep reminding you that our life matters, because y'all are looking at us like we're dogs outside. Like, who cares what they're going through? And someone should care. If we don't demand it, they'll keep treating us, like we don't matter. So, but moving on, we want to talk about the slap heard around the world. Last Sunday the Oscars came on, and people have had, perspectives all week. You've been hearing what this person had to say, what that person had to say. So now you're going to hear what the Amoses have to say. And I can just recap what happened in case you're living under a rock and you don't know. Chris Rock came out to introduce the award for, I believe it was Best Documentary. I believe, because Questlove was the one who won the award. However, Chris Rock came out and went off script and started cracking jokes at the expense of audience members, which is something that most the hosts do. And he made a comment, a joke about Jada having a bald head, and everyone laughed except Jada. And then the camera panned to Chris, and we're assuming that Jada gave Will a look that of disapproval, and Will went on stage and slapped Chris, open hand slap, and walked back to his seat and told him to keep his wife's name out of his mouth. And I mean, it was a viral moment. Like, I couldn't even go to sleep last Sunday night for reading all the comments of what everyone had to say, looking at different angles of the video. And then again, all week we've heard all these recaps. And I'm one of those people, I don't like to speak on stuff until I've had a chance to digest it and, you know, get all the information. So I think we're prepared to talk on it now. But one of the first things we discussed, my husband and I, the next day after it happened, was everyone saying, oh, this made black people look bad. So I'll let you elaborate on that part, and then I'll give my take on it.
I did hear quite a few celebrities. One that I recall off the top of my head was Magic Johnson came on and said, and most of the people that, you know, I kind of agree with most of what I heard, that one of the things he said was whatever the issue was could have been handled a different way. It could have been handled behind the scene, because one thing I saw was, you know, there's always different footage and different angles coming out of what happened that day, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things they showed was there was camera footage of backstage after it was all over, mm-hmm. showing Will and Chris Rock hugging and shaking hands. Now, there was no audio, but from the clip, they just concluded that the man was apologizing and I guess giving an explanation for why he did what he did. So, but it did show him, you know, shake and hug or whatever. So
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that all week.
I did see that. As a matter of fact, I think that was on the news. That I think CNN showed that.
Oh, okay.
So, just from that footage, you see that whatever problem you had could have been worked out then, mm-hmm. instead of on stage and everyone saying, well, this was the first time a black company produced the Oscars. Like, they had been complaining about it for years, and so they finally let them. So this year that happened will be overshadowed. We won't even remember that part of it, mm-hmm. which was supposed to be a good part, that now y'all went and pulled a stunt that will never be forgotten, mm-hmm. because social media is taking it and lit a flame underneath it. So,
well, let me add this. I had no clue that Will Packard was
prior to
this coming out. Had no clue he was producing the show. So I don't think this overshadowed it. I think after the fact is when everyone threw that part in there as if it was somehow his fault, like he knew something like this was going to happen. I had no clue prior to I saw that the awards were coming out, that, you know, they were going to air on that day. I saw who the hosts were, and I love Regina Hall. I love her. Wanda Sykes is funny to me as well. Amy Schumer, I could do without. She has a sense of humor that I don't always get it. But anyway, I saw that part. I did not see it advertised at all that Will Packer was producing this show. I'm sure that was some sort of, something that came out afterwards, like, oh, look what happened. Now y'all done let this black man come in here and do this, and look how he did. Like, we had no clue he was doing that. But again, I had an opposite view from that. I do not think that incident made black people look bad. I don't see it as a black or white issue. Number one, this is Will freaking Smith and Chris Rock. Like, they're two of the greatest in their fields. Like, Will Smith literally won the award for Best Actor. And Chris Rock is a, very famous comedian. Like, he's come such a long way. He's been around for, I want to say, at least 30 years, as a comedian. So these are two titans in their industry. They don't make black people look bad. Like, they're higher up on the scale. People aspire to be like both of them. But they are human. And I feel like Will had a human moment. A lot of times you hear the phrase, you never know what someone is going through, so be kind, to everyone. This man has, not making excuses for it, because how he reacted was wrong. I don't think anyone denies that, including him. But I don't think he was wrong for reacting. And it's crazy to me that I see a lot of women feel he's not wrong for reacting, who would not want their husband to defend their honor or protect them. And I see a lot of men on the opposite side, like, that he was totally wrong. He shouldn't have done that. He could have done that backstage. I get that he could have done it backstage. But Chris Rock didn't offend her backstage. He offended her on international TV, not just in the United States. The Oscars air everywhere. And he offended her everywhere, and he did that on his own. That wasn't part of the script. They had a joke for him to say. He chose to make that joke. And so I am a firm believer that if you offend me publicly, you need to apologize to me publicly, not backstage, not behind. Don't call me afterwards on the phone privately. Apologize in public. And I think Will handled it publicly. He did what he thought was best at the time. He reacted. I don't think the man was wrong for defending his wife. I'm sorry. I just, that's how I feel. And I don't think it made black people look bad, because like I said, these are some of the greatest people to do it. Even Will Packer, like, he's one of the greatest producers, directors, from us, as a black person. So, I still think the show was great. But I don't think the man was wrong. I know you work with nothing but men, so tell me how the men were reacting.
Well, for starters, what he did in America is considered assault. And then to say, well, you just went on national TV and assaulted a man, like, if there was ever a time to expect to go to jail, that would have been it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, and a lot of the videos and stuff that I've heard on TikTok say, well, that was unnecessary to do on national TV and put yourself in harm's way. And then so many people blamed Jada for saying, okay, if this is your husband that you love so dearly, you should have been the one to have some restraint. Not that, okay, maybe she has ESP or something to know he's going to jump up and take off upstage. Maybe she didn't know, but
I'm sure she didn't. It
Right,
all happened too quick.
but for him to do that behind, a lot of people look at what he did. You say, okay, well, he offended you on national TV all across the country. Well, other folks look at it and say, well, they hired this man to do what he does, and most of the time they use comedians for these type of shows. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel's done it a lot, Anthony Anderson does it a lot, for that reason, to make the crowd laugh, and even more so at the expense of famous stars, but not to take it personally. So that's what he did. So folks would say, okay, you volunteered to go to jail behind a joke told by a comedian that, if it was that offensive. I've even heard women say, well, if Jada is that sensitive about her hair, why didn't she just put on a wig? It's gone in so many different directions. I think in a marriage, there's nothing wrong with a man defending his wife. We had an issue, I'm not going to say similar, but we had an issue once before where I was put in a defend your wife type deal. So there has to be a line in the sand drawn where, okay, you can't cross this line or it's going to escalate. Mm-hmm. In that incident, if that was me and my wife, I didn't feel like Chris Rock crossed I'm going to escalate this issue here. Now, if my wife was upset, yeah, the three of us could have all spoken and said, look, no, don't do that anymore because, I feel a certain way. So let me try to shorten up what happened with us. There's an older guy, lives in the front of our subdivision. He was here maybe a year or two before us. This subdivision was fairly new. Anyway, he kind of appointed himself to be the godfather of the community. He just has to be in front of everything and in charge of everything, but nobody really pays him much attention. He's the older guy. So anyway, there was a day they agreed to have a food truck come in the area during COVID. Like just for people to get out and maybe they can come and patronize this food truck. Well, the food truck was in the street, and the way it was facing, the window where you serve was facing the street. Something just as simple as turning that trailer towards the curb where the people would have been in the grass on the sidewalk or whatever versus standing in the street where the cars come could have de-escalated the whole thing, but that's not what happened. This day, the trailer was facing the wrong way. The people were in the street standing in line to want to order. And of course, he's out there overseeing it all. Who appointed him? Probably his own self. So my wife comes down the street that leads directly to my house, doing about 20, 25 miles an hour. Well, this guy had been drinking, this overseer. He had been drinking, and he deemed that my wife was going too fast because there's people in the street. There's something wrong, not with the people in the street, but you that's driving. Well, last I looked, streets are for cars or people? They're for the cars. You people need to get out the way. But anyway, so she goes by, and he starts hollering and yelling and having a conniption, and he races to my house where she's on her way to. And he's there before she gets there. It's going to show how fast she was going, right? This guy's at least late 60s, early 70s. At least. But he beat her there. Anyway, I'm watching TV, football, whatever it was. And daughter comes in, Dad, you need to come out here. There's a guy and Mom, they're going back and forth yelling, and she told me to come get you. I'm thinking to myself, in my yard? No. So I go out, and this guy's having a fit, and I said, well, I asked my wife to go inside and look, just you and I. Let's deal with this. And so he's going on, and I finally get the gist of the story. But the whole thing was, somewhere down the line, he mentioned your wife is either crazy or a lunatic or psycho. He used something along that. Your wife is just... So, okay, all these folks are sitting over here at the food truck, probably videoing with their phone. So I'm not gonna be Will Smith and smack the heck out of this guy because I'm automatically wrong, right? You can't do that in America. You can't take the law into your own hands. Well, what I told him was, okay, look, you and I can work this out, but what you're not gonna do is come in my yard and talk crazy about my wife. So everybody's entitled to their opinion. Go have your opinion at your house. You can call all the psychos you want over there, but you're not gonna do it here. Now, if we can work something out here and talk like humans about what just happened, let's do it. I don't have to choke you or nothing. Now, my wife wanted me. My wife wanted me to
you
choke.
finish your side. I'm gonna tell my side.
She wanted me to choke you, but that's not necessary. I'm not going to get anything out of hurting this old man, other than I need some bail money, because I'm going to jail. And at that time, I probably would have been told I did something worse than whatever I did because of Black Lives Matter at the time. But anyway, he ended up leaving, but there was no need for me to escalate any further than what we did, because to me, he didn't cross the line. He didn't walk up and put his hands on my wife. He didn't slap her or grab her butt or nothing like that. There's a line in the sand where you can't go too far. See, if you go too far, then it doesn't matter anymore. I'm just going to jail. But you went too far. And to me, he hadn't. And to me, Chris Rock hadn't gone too far. So that was pretty much.
Let me give my perspective on this story, and then I'll give my perspective on Chris Rock. So, on this story, like my husband said, this man beat me to my own house, walking. When I was backing up, my car beeped, literally, because the man was behind my car. I could have run him over. When I opened my door, he was right there at my door yelling at me. I told my daughter to get out of the passenger side, go get dad, and tell him to come outside, because I didn't know what this man was about to do. And he yelled and cursed and whatever. I ended up calling the police because I wanted my husband to lay him out. Because you don't come in our driveway, almost in our garage, yelling at me, and I can't remember. This is why I don't do criminal law. But assault and battery are two different things. A lot of people think it's all one term. Assault and battery are two different things. One of them, assault, you have to touch the person. But I don't know if it goes with assault or battery. One of them is the threat. The threat itself. If you put me in fear that you're going to do it, that's also a crime. And I was in fear that this man was going to do something to me. And I was prepared to bail my husband out if my husband went to jail, which brings me to Will and Jada, because if Will had gone to jail, you think he was going to spend the night there? No, he would have been out in less than an hour. And he's not going to get prison time for slapping a man. I don't care if it was on national TV or in his backyard. He's not going to go to prison for slapping somebody. He defended his wife, which I believe he did go overboard by going on stage to slap this man. But let me back up to what you said about they hired Chris Rock to do that. They did not hire Chris Rock to do that. He was not the host of the show. The host of the show was Regina Hall, Wanda Sykes, and Amy Schumer. They are the ones who have the liberty to make fun of the guests. Chris Rock had a script. He was only presenting an award. He was not supposed to go up there and make his own jokes. And what he made, in my opinion, was a bald head HOE joke. That's what he said. That's how she took it, and that's how I took it as well. By him saying, G.I. Jane too? Oh, so you calling her bald-headed. And to me, it was disrespectful. It wasn't funny. It was disrespectful to her. Everyone was laughing as if on cue. Because, like you said about videos that came out later, after he smacked him, and Chris said, Will Smith just smacked the out of me, Jada laughed. The entire audience laughed. Everyone laughed. I don't know if it was a nervous laugh. I think a lot of people were in disbelief, like they didn't think what had happened had really just happened. But, you know, I see people putting it all on Jada. Like, Chris Rock's joke was disrespectful to her. Will was disrespectful to Chris, because an open hand slap, that's not a man's fight. That is not something you expect a man to do to another man. It was disrespectful. Jada, in my opinion, was the only one who didn't do anything this week. She didn't make a joke at anyone's expense, and she didn't hit anyone, but she has received the most flack this week. The most hateful things have been said about her. And it just goes to show, you know, I think it was Malcolm X said years ago, the most disrespected person on this earth is the black woman. And he did not lie. They have disrespected this woman. Oh, I mean, it was everything. Let me start with the alopecia thing, because I relate to it. I had alopecia areata. That's what it's called, alopecia areata. I was dating this guy, constantly had me stressed out. Like, I mean, I was so stressed out with him. I was going to get my hair done, and my beautician pointed out to me, you know, you have a bald spot about this big, the size of a 50-cent coin. It was bigger than a quarter. You know, the Bitcoin in my head, like scalped, like bald, like the back of my hand bald. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what caused it. And I'm thinking it's gonna grow back. I'm thinking it was something I had done that you know, caused it. I ended up going to the doctor because, you know, a couple of months passed and it wasn't growing back. I go to the doctor. They diagnosed it and told me what it was and what caused it. And I had to get injections, shots, like with a needle in my scalp, several little places to regenerate the hair to start growing again. And then it happened again. It didn't just happen one time. So it was like several spots in my head that were bald spots. It's caused by stress. I don't know what, you know, is going on with Will and Jada behind closed doors, but I'm not surprised that the lady is under stress, because ever since she started doing Red Table Talk and they started like putting their bit, because years ago you didn't hear anything about Will and Jada. Like, we were in the car today and I was listening to J. Cole say he wanted that Jada and that Will love, because everyone called them couple goals. But that's because no one knew what was going on behind closed doors. You would hear rumors here and there. You heard the rumor about they have an open marriage. You know, you heard all this that they dispelled and say none of that was true. But once she started doing Red Table Talk and he would be on the show and, you know, they discussed the whole entanglement issue, all of that. They have put themselves out there. I can only imagine the type of stress that they're under now. That everything they say and do is, you know, fair game for everyone to discuss. But it could be even more than that. I don't know what her health issues are, but she acknowledged that she has alopecia. When you go through that, when I went through that, if someone like a comedian made fun of the haircut, I mean, like you said, she could have worn a wig, but she was trying to empower herself by saying, I'm beautiful despite my hair. And then that automatically causes insecurities in a woman when you have to wear a wig. It's one thing to, you know, want to wear a wig because you want to wear a different hairstyle, but when you have to wear a wig, like you look at women who are battling cancer, who have gone through chemo, and they feel like they have to wear a wig. That's a different type of insecurity that you experience. So if you muster up the strength and courage to go out and flaunt your bald head, and then somebody like Chris Rock decides to make a joke at your expense, it's hurtful. And I feel like, despite what everyone may think, that Will is one of the people who has to comfort her when she is experiencing those insecurities. And so for her to be able to look at him with that face, I mean, you could literally see her going from laughing to rolling her eyes to straight face, like what Chris said hurt her feelings. And Will was clearly laughing, but then the camera went off of them. You can only imagine that he looked to her and saw, the hurt on her face and reacted. And I don't think he was worried about no bail money. But, I just feel like this week, the media, not just the media, people, everyday people have talked so bad about Jada. And to me, Jada is the only one blameless in this. She did not do anything wrong. But she has taken the fall for the behavior of two grown men who did something wrong. And it's all because, like Malcolm X said, the black woman is the most disrespected person on this earth. Like, I don't get how you told me the other day that somebody said alopecia is a curse on evil women. Like, where did you get that from? She quoted Bible scriptures and everything. I went straight to the scripture. It doesn't even talk about women. It was a metaphor for the land of Zion, not a woman, but the Bible referred to Zion as she and her, and this woman took it all out of context and said, this is for evil women. And I'm not no evil woman, and I had it. So, I just feel like Jada has taken the rap for this. And, I saw recently that they're saying they're going to talk about this on Red Table Talk, which I think is a huge mistake. But I definitely will be tuned in, because I would like to know what she was thinking. What did she think? I think it was Lunel was the one who said she should have grabbed his arm or whatever. They were so far apart. And how could she have known that that's what he was about to do?
Well, what Lunel said was that there's a lot. Everyone's saying, well, Will was just defending his wife when he went up on stage. And so Lunel's point was, there's a lot of men in the cemetery right now that thought they was just defending their woman, and a guy might have said something or touched her or whatever it was. And she looked over to the man and said, I know you're not just going to sit there. And he jumped up to do something, and it didn't work out in his favor. So, I don't know, it was a bad situation to me. I wish, I understand that the man is human. And a lot of times when you've been so successful in what you do, it's hard to remember that these people are human, because we can't see them, meet them, touch them, talk to them. So they become kind of superhuman. Mm-hmm. So when they make a mistake, it's of epic proportion, especially when you have TikTok, Facebook. I mean, you have all these social media outlets that can just really hammer you big time, not to mention the news, because the news now is getting they get their content from social media. All the people posting these little short clips. Well, that just works right in the news' favor. But anyway, I wish he would have handled it a different way, because, okay, they have the entanglement issue and they've had some issue with their children, whatever. Like, you're living y'all's life out kind of openly where too many people can see it. And if it's fruitful, that's good. But if it's kind of adverse, people are going to hold on to whatever bad they can find in it. Mm-hmm. And then sooner or later, if they get enough bad things, they're going to link them all together. And that's exactly what happened here, because that night didn't have anything to do with August Alsina, but you've heard his name a million.
Starting that night. I mean, he is trending again.
They went straight back to August Alsina.
They said, he should have slapped August Alsina. How do y'all know he didn't slap August Alsina?
But they hurry up and joined them together to say, okay, Will, you ran up there and did this behind Jada, and you didn't say nothing when Jada was over here, and then it didn't help none that Jada came on Red Table Talk with just her and her husband. And they asked, why did you do it? Or what was your thought pattern when you was with August Alsina? And they said, well, yeah, we were separated. We were apart. We weren't together. And I just wanted to feel good at that time. And so, boy, you know, the media is just gonna, they might, I don't know if they went in on you back then, but they definitely went in on Jada now for what she said back then. So,
and I don't see anything wrong with that either. Like, if we were separated, and the thing of it is, you know, people always say, well, I'm not going to say that. People always say, recently, ever since Meg Thee Stallion got shot by Tory Lanez, you hear this, protect black women. Protect black women. That's been the going thing in the last couple of years. Protect black women. But nobody's protecting Jada other than Will, number one. But I feel like Jada is protecting Will because I do not believe that in all this time Will has not slept with somebody else. Especially during that time when she was dating August Alsina and they were separated. It wasn't public that they were separated. They were still living in the same house with their kids. But as far as marriage goes, they were not acting as a married couple. Even when Red Table Talk first came out, they weren't even referring to each other as husband and wife. They referred to each other as life partners, almost like they weren't married anymore. They felt like their relationship had transcended that, but that might be because they had gotten past the August Alsina thing. But part of the reason I say Jada protects Will is because it hadn't come out who Will was sleeping with. And I know that's not because he didn't sleep with somebody. Well, the fact that she said, I wanted to feel good, like, that's human.
Yeah. I don't think it's fair to say, well, Will was probably doing some things if we don't know. Like, if he was and she knew it, then that would have been the perfect time to say, hey, you did your things just like I did my thing. But she didn't, and you said, well, maybe she's protecting him. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of maybes. We don't know all of their business.
Yeah, we don't know. So I'm just speculating. Yeah. But
I just, hate to see both of them get drugged through the mud like this, because I can't imagine, where can you go now where somebody in public's like, hey, there's a Will Smith guy. Boy, you ain't had no business doing with you. I mean, he can't have a normal life. It's not gonna be easy for him. I don't
think it's that big of a deal. He didn't shoot anybody like Alec Baldwin, and Alec Baldwin is having a normal life.
Yeah, well,
he literally killed somebody.
But this is I get a chance to like really drive your name in the dirt, and there's been dirt along the way. See, Alec Baldwin wasn't just in the news every now and then looking like, oh, you thought you had it all together. You put it out there like you had it all together, and here we are saying, oh, we see spots and blemishes in your white coat.
Oh, ever since Red Table Talk, Will's image is not squeaky clean like it was prior to them opening up, which is why I feel like she didn't put his news out there. She didn't put his dirt out there. It's clear that early on in their marriage, when they were both new actors, she wanted to be an actor. Will kind of morphed into an actor because he started out rapping. He wasn't an actor. Even when he got to be on Fresh Prince, he was still a rapper. He wasn't, an actor. She went to school to act. But they both started basically around the same time, and she thought her career was gonna blow up like his did. But clearly, he's the bigger star out of the two of them. And so she, she's talked about this on the show, that she had to learn how to accept that he was going to be the bigger star than her, which ultimately means his image has to, he has to portray this image publicly. And she had to find her role in that, which is, why I feel like, I think if August Alsina himself would not have put it out there, they never would have discussed what she did publicly. And who's to say August Alsina is the only person that she was ever with? It's just he put it out there and she didn't have a choice but to address it. So who's to say that one day some woman won't come forward and say, yes, I slept with Will. And then Jada could say, see there, y'all was all on me. But anyway, I just feel like they have treated poor Jada so bad this week. I mean, they
got all the blame.
Yeah, she's gotten the blame for this entire thing. Oh, she's a strong girl. The joke wasn't that bad. You can't tell somebody how to take a joke that affects them when it's hitting on their insecurities. And we don't know what all kind of health issues. She acknowledged alopecia. It could be worse than that. It could be, cancer for all we know. They just have not put it out there. But like Will said, jokes at the expense of her health issues was more than he could bear. So he reacted. It was wrong. But I don't think his career ended.
I wouldn't say all that. This is just like I heard one of my coworkers say this. All he has to do is make another movie. They're gonna forget all about all of this. So
And to be honest, I'm waiting to hear what Chris has to say. There was a clip recently of Tony Rock coming out doing his little stand-up, and he went off like as if he's the big bad wolf. You don't look at any of the Rock brothers and think I'm shaking in my boots. Like they don't give off that type of energy. And Tony Rock worked for Will. Do you remember that TV show years ago, All of Us, where it was kind of like a reenactment of Will and Jada's life, and Will and Jada were the executive producers, and Dwayne Martin played Will's character, Elise Neal Jada, and Lisa Ray played Will's first wife, and Tony Rock was Dwayne Martin's best friend on the show. And so he had a working relationship with Will. I can only imagine that they became friends, working together. But he was totally offended. But I think that was just a facade. They said Chris has had a couple of shows since it happened, but he hasn't discussed it. The only joke he's making about it was, how was your weekend? As if to say my weekend was, like he said on the show, it's the greatest night in television. But at some point he's going to discuss it. He's going to find a way to make it funny, because that's what comedians do. But I also hope that at some point he apologizes to Jada, because if he wouldn't have made the joke, none of this ever would have happened. It's not Jada's fault. But we pray for all of them, everyone involved. I pray, Will has resigned from the Academy. I'm not 100% sure what the ramifications of that, what that actually means. From what I hear, it means he can no longer be nominated for an award or win an award. But he's been in so many movies and he's never won before. This was his first time winning, and if they aren't going to take this one back, I doubt he even cares. But it's not going to make or break his career if he never wins another one. There are several black actors who never won one. It doesn't take away from how great of actors they are. So, we pray for everyone involved. I pray for Jada's health. I pray for her and Will's marriage, that, they're able to work through this and all the other turmoil that they're experiencing. I pray for Chris. I pray for healing for him, as I saw a clip of him discussing his mental health dealing with issues of being bullied and assaulted by other people. He was talking about being robbed and getting jumped and things like that. So I hope that that happened doesn't, activate his PTSD or, anything like that. I pray for healing for him and his family. Hope that Tony can get past it. And I think that's it. You have anything else you want to add?
Well, if all else fails, he's still worth well over $200 million. So it will make it easy to forget. Just head on down to the Ferrari dealership.
Oh God. All right, well, if you're not already following us, be sure to follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Get a Love Like Mine Podcast. If you have a question that you would like answered on the show, send us an email to getalovelikemindepodcast@gmail.com. In the subject line, write Ask the Amoses. You can ask whatever kind of question you'd like. We'll read it anonymously and give you our honest opinion. And that is it. We thank you. Have a happy Sunday.